Town manager's report, the thing that everybody waits for.
Goodness, I forgot where we were. All right. I'd like to start by noting that the town's project page on TyngsboroughMA.gov was updated last week and has the description, the cost, and current status of all of our major projects happening in town, including where the money is coming from. We often get questions about how projects are funded, and if you participate in our Civic Engagement Academy, you will learn the different funding sources. But some of the notable project updates: last week we lifted the pedestrian bridge in the town center into place. This was a project that was funded by a state earmark and CPC funding, so it wasn't an operating budget item. We didn't divert money from roads or from staffing for this. It's not going to be ready for use in time for the block party, but it's out of the way. Allison has all the space she needs for the block party now, and I expect that all of the work, including the landscaping, will be complete by September. Work has commenced on the Bicentennial Field project. They've started quite a bit of work along the brook, which is where the new pump will be installed. It's on order. There's about an 8-week backlog on the pump, so we expect to receive that at some point in late September, early October, and the entire project should be complete by November 1st. We won't experience the benefits this season, but certainly for the next season we will. They've also done some of the electrical work on the inside, and I expect that in the next few weeks they'll start digging some of the trenches that will be necessary. So the goal is, once the new pump arrives, everything will be ready to go. Construction on the Sherburne Road Rec Parcel will commence in the next week. Work under that contract includes the installation of an ADA walking path, the gravel parking lot, and various sport amenities. The work will largely be complete by November 1st. However, some of the top surfaces on the courts require certain weather to be done correctly. So depending on temperatures, if they drop below that ideal 55-degree weather, we may have to wait until early spring. The good news is we're seeing 55-degree weather as early as February now, so as soon as we get a stretch of 3 days of that weather, they'll come back out and finish it if they haven't yet. We did open bids for the construction of a pavilion on that site. That bid opening was on Wednesday. Unfortunately, they came in substantially higher than we hoped and well outside of the project's budget. We've rejected all of the bids, and now we're looking at exploring other options for a pavilion. One of the ways that other communities have done this is by ordering a prefabbed pavilion and having it delivered in place. Part of the challenge in Massachusetts is that anything that is considered vertical construction is under a different category of procurement laws, which require DCAM certification, filed subbids, and for all of those requirements, the price goes way up. So we are working within the confines of the procurement laws to see about getting something in there for far less. The lowest bid was $313,000, which was well above what we had hoped to spend. I'm happy to share that the town received favorable pricing on our energy aggregation for the town buildings. You may remember that we opted to not include our municipal buildings on the energy aggregation that residents are part of, because when we threw those buildings in, the pricing that residents saw was not nearly as favorable. So we separated ours out to give residents the better pricing. We're still getting better rates than National Grid would offer us. Unfortunately, on the gas side, the gas prices have increased from National Grid and from other vendors. So while our new contract for natural gas effective December 1st will be higher than what we're paying today, it will still be 0.09 cents lower than what National Grid is charging. Today, I did hear from the legislature that our home rule petition that was approved in May to grant 3 new all-alcohol licenses is starting its very long legislative process. Tomorrow, it will have a written testimony only hearing, which is really just a deadline on paper to submit written comments, before the Joint Committee on Licensure and Consumer Affairs. If that goes well, it is possible that we could see this approved before the end of December.
Ooh, lightning speed.
Yes, we're moving very fast at the State House. I'm happy to share that at the recommendation of Chief Howe, I've appointed Jason Rubino to the position of police officer with the Tyngsborough Police Department effective Thursday, July 25th. Mr. Rubino is from Litchfield, New Hampshire, but has deep roots here in Tyngsborough. He was one of 3 finalists for the position and was interviewed in a final interview last month by myself, the Director of People and Culture, Bridget Bell, and Chief Howe. All 3 of us are in agreement about his appointment. He will begin the police academy in August, and we expect that he'll complete the academy and begin his field training here in town in February. His appointment is contingent on a successful completion of the police academy and his field training program. The Department of Public Works was awarded a 2-year grant from the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program through the Commonwealth. The total grant is $326,500 for work toward the Bridge Meadow Brook culvert replacement. As you're all very well aware, we've spent the last few years working hard to get external grants to design new culverts, and every year we see more and more culverts that need to be replaced, which result in some pretty substantial flooding. So big kudos to our superintendent, Jake Zwicker, for that.
Where exactly is that one?
That one is Dunstable Road, just before Redgate.
Okay, because it just said Bridge Meadow Brook goes like
It's
a
very-
bunch of different
yes.
areas, so I was like,
There's quite a
and
few
there's
also
different
that
roads.
keep flooding.
Yeah, there's different roads, that's why I was
We're
trying
still actively working on the bigger one, which is the Chestnut Road culvert.
Okay,
That we're in the queue for potentially a state grant, but everything is up in the air.
it's fantastic that we got a grant.
Yes. I'm grateful to Lowell 5 for their commitment of a 4-year contribution toward our new Sherburne Ave Rec Parcel. It's a $20,000 contribution, straight donation to the town over the term of the 4 years. We're working with them right now to ensure that we provide adequate recognition of them and their contributions somewhere on the new parcel. The Tyngsborough Fire Department has taken possession of a new utility pickup truck, which replaces an '09 pickup truck. This new truck was funded through the fiscal year '24 capital program and will serve as the new Car 2, which is a command vehicle for the assistant chief. The use of this pickup truck will allow continued use by the department to tow our air trailer, which is the most common item that we see requests for from mutual aid, as well as the new rescue boat that was put into service last year. For the duration of the '09 pickup truck, which has remarkably low miles, it will be used by our facilities division within the DPW by use of our facilities staff, which currently are towing things around in their own personal vehicles, which is a problem for insurance purposes. I met last week with our bond agency and finance team to discuss the plans for our permanent borrowing on the middle school project. We're happy to share that the market right now is favorable. In fact, a similar bond was sold last week for a community with our bond rating. The same 30-year term, $50 million, which landed a 3.75% interest rate. You may remember that the short-term bands that we did in November were a 5% interest rate, so certainly an improvement there. Based on our impact presentation that we made to residents back in 2022, we think, but we'll run scenarios as we get closer, that it still makes sense for us to do the maximum term of 30 years. We're targeting a bond sale in early October and utilizing a long coupon as planned to ensure that the first payment would be due in fiscal year '26. If our timeline sticks, I expect that I'll be asking the board at its October 7th meeting to approve the sale. Due to the nature of MSBA requirements, we won't borrow the full dollar amount upfront, because when they do their final audit, oftentimes there's money that we didn't recoup from the MSBA that we'll be able to. So we're expecting that we'll do, based on where the contingencies are and what we expect the project to land at, I think that in October we'll do a bond of $50 million. And then if necessary, while we wait for the closeout, because the closeout by the MSBA can take up to 2 years, we may do an additional $1 million borrowing if necessary. A lot of that is still up in the air. Every month now we get updated cash flows from left field and send it to Hilltop, which is our borrowing agency, to make sure that we don't get to a point where we've run out of money, which would be really sad. And then I just wanted to note that the Innovation Academy Charter School was awarded a $55,000 STEM equipment and teacher development grant through the Massachusetts Life Sciences Center. The grant helps local schools prepare students for life science careers by enabling schools to purchase lab equipment, materials, supplies, and technology, as well as professional development for teachers. That's all that I've got.
I will open up the board for questions. Anybody? Questions, comments? Anybody want to lead us off?
So,
Go ahead.
very excited that we're finally kicking off the Sherburne Road rec parcel. And as I mentioned before, hopefully we have a groundbreaking ceremony before we
Yes.
break ground, on that particular facility. So very much looking forward to that starting. There's not too often you get a chance to build a recreational facility that everybody can use. So, actually, one other question. The DPW building,
Yes.
what was a quick update on that?
Sure, that we just received last week the very early final design, which is being circulated throughout the different DPW divisions right now. I expect that we'll get them confirmation that that's what we're looking for, and we are still on track to put the project out to bid early this fall. One of the benefits was we received 2 years ago a $100,000 earmark to do design work over there, which had expired. However, courtesy of some sob work with the state, they renewed the $100,000. So we'll be able to use that and not touch any of the money town meeting approved for design, which will increase the amount of money we have available for construction.
Excellent, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Please.
you mentioned that there's a place on the town website to track progress on the projects that
Yes.
are going on. I just pulled up the site. Could you direct me to it? I just don't see
Absolutely,
it.
I would be delighted to. If you go to community, there's a section called town. It talks with buildings, town meetings, and then there's one called town projects.
I love it. Thank you.
Future projects are not totally up to date at this point, but current projects is what people are most interested in. I've been notified it is missing the middle school that has its own website, and given the size of it, it didn't make it to our projects page, but we can certainly link it so people can find it easier.
That's a good idea. Great, thanks.
Of course.
Anyone else?
I don't have a question per se, Colin. I would agree with you that if we can get a 3.75% rate, and I know there's talk in the financial markets that, we're waiting for a rate cut from the Fed, we've been waiting on forever, but cautiously optimistic that if we can get 3.75 or who knows, maybe even a little bit lower, a 30-year makes a lot of sense, right? Because there isn't that much of a difference in cost 5 years, whether you're going from 25 to 30 or even 20 to 30. So I think that's the right way to go.
Perfect.
Yeah, I would agree. I was just thinking the same thing. Fed's supposed to be making their changes in September, knock on wood. But that is good news. And there may be some other updates that we hear on the school as well at some point today.
We quite possibly could.
The only other thing that I had a question on. Nope, I'm not worrying about it. We'll deal with it later. But thank you for the updates, as always, very helpful. You did mention that the projects, people can get those to the website. For those folks who aren't sure where things are and say, oh, I didn't know that any of these things were happening, they can also sign up to get notifications through email. It's fantastic. If you're not on it, people should avail themselves to that.
I love the texts.
Texts are always good, too.
I just imagine that Colin is sending those texts directly to me. with
One
updates.
at a time. I send them to every subscriber. Yes.
All right.
And yes, I'm sorry, I should mention, because Roni is here and will yell at me, obviously you can listen to the town manager's podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and the highlights will be available tomorrow.
And I know that the viewership is through the roof.
It's hard to keep. We have to, yeah, it's a lot.